maybe even a higher percentage of that, but you get the idea. It's certainly very popular, and one of those that we may see more in road racing to come. All right, the Lone Star sponsored Superlite's ready to go with Sean Harris on the inside, but a great start there from Gav. Gav Veltmeyer to get away. Gav just trying to get his nose in front. I think he might have got the brake on him as well. Gav Veltmeyer, great to watch through there, and Gav Veltmeyer just with his nose to get off the line, and Gav Veltmeyer making a fine run through there. The man from Auckland loves it down here in the south, having a marvellous holiday, catching up with friends and family. And the all-round nice guy on the GVR, Gav Veltmeyer Racing, Coleman's Suzuki supported SV650. But other than a Pro SV650, this is one with modifications, which means it can't race in the Pro class itself, so it's got to go into a modified class like Superlites. And I tell you what, there's very few standard bikes in Superlite racing. These have all been modified to some shape or form, but all within the CC specifications. It used to be called Formula 3, and a lot of people used to ask what the formulas were, and so Formula 3 was just a natural step down from 1 and 2, but given it more prominent names that understand. So still that name of Supers, like we've got Super Bikes as we know, Supercross, Supermoto, and we have now Superlites in this class, so they're a lightweight version of a Superbike in a far lesser capacity. Some of these only a quarter of that capacity. Right, here we go now with already Super Sean. There he goes, Mr. Sean Harris, away to a fire out there on the TD1 Classic stack, supported Suzuki GSXR 450, so good work from Sean. So Sean Harris, the race leader, Gavin Veltmeyer, the early leader, now back in second place ahead of Matt Hugenbosom. Looking to see Matt start to get better results as he improves with his health, and I would say by the time we rock into levels near Timaru next weekend for the third of our 4-round series. So after this racing, of course, we're halfway through, not actually halfway through the numbers, because we've got an extra race at the final round. So to make it worthwhile, the only North Island round will have 4 races per class and not 3 as each of the South Island events have had. We'd accidentally been calling a 5-race finale, but it is in fact only 4 as a correction to you. So, and that comes up in the first week of March, so we have a reasonable break right through February. During February, of course, we'll have the Honda Battle of the Streets in Pyroar up there on the Hauraki Plains, so the famous LMP town of Pyroar, and that will be our Suzuki, my apologies, Honda Battle of the Streets event, so a one-off street race, one of the big ones, spectator-wise, arguably the biggest motorcycle event in New Zealand. If they get a good day up there. In fact, last year I think was their first time they'd ever had rain and a cancellation in all of their 25-odd years of racing. Interesting fact, of course, that picking the third weekend in February as they've done, they did their research in choosing that date years ago. It's actually by history the driest weekend in New Zealand. And, here you go, there's a lot of Met service forecasting that was done, but when you go back on facts, you want to find the driest weekend of New Zealand. The third weekend in February is across New Zealand is the driest weekend of the year. So that's their proven result, and to have one in every 25 years, pretty good for sure. So well done, and look forward to seeing that event rocking into Pyroar. So bring it on with the Auckland Motorcycle Club and Pyroar Promotions, with the money raised in that event going to local sports and cultural events and other activities in that local region. So it's a local promotional event, and it's not a club as such. It is a body that realised that, hey, we can make something out of this with motorcycle sport, and they've raised so much money that they make sure that it all goes back to the community and it's spread evenly, so it's not just in any one field or other. People can make claims to Pyroar Promotion. So great to know that our sport is being used as a huge fundraiser, and it's the biggest and strongest in Pyroar. So bring on that street race coming up third weekend of February. So there we go, back to the racing. Sean Harris, Jacob Stroud up there already. So Jacob Stroud, and some good work to do with Jacob. I tell you what, man oh man, is he ever staying tuned on this one or what? So keen just to look out for it at the moment. So where's Gav Veltmeyer gone? There's young Jacob in there. So Jacob, now this is the No Hair racing bike. This is a bike that won this class last year in the hands of our world-class lady Avalon Biddle. Avalon, a spectator for us at Ruapuna last weekend, not with us this weekend, and there was a little whisper that there may have been a bike opportunity for her to have come up. Of course, in all politeness, can't afford to race in New Zealand if she wants to get back on that world stage. She became the inaugural winner of the World Women's Cup, which was held last year for the first time. My wife and son had the privilege of going to watch her overseas, and said it was just fantastic, the support she got and the way she was respected. An elegant lady at the sharper end of the field, and I actually rang Talkback Radio last week and complained that she wasn't one of the 4 finalists in the women's class for the Halberg Awards, which come out next month, because I thought her feats were as great, if not greater, than the women that have been selected. Hey, when you know of her credentials, when you know of her fitness, when you know what she's achieving, and the competition that she's up against from around the world, it is a major achievement. So I hope many of you get behind her as well. We cheer on Avalon Biddle, and on the relativity, of course, is that bike that Jake is on, is the one No Hair Racing, Mr. Greg Percival, that she was on last year. So there we go, Spider, much better run from Jacob this time, keeping Sean Harris very honest out there.
Oh, certainly. He said he really wants a win this weekend, really wants a win. Everybody wants to win, but he's got it in sights at the moment. He set a fastest lap of a 1:04.1. Sean Harris out in the front there on the 37 machine is a fastest lap of a 1:04.5. 0.5. So 4/10 of a second between them. There's just 0.3 as they went across the start-finish stripe on that last lap. We can't quite see out the back there. We're going to have to look. There it is, through the start-finish stripe, and it is 0.235 of a second, and 0.235 of a second, 73,000 second quicker. Jacob Stroud as they close up, going around the big sweeper here at Taratonga for the 2016 Superbike Series, the second last race of the weekend, and what a great weekend. Very, very little crashes, very, very little injuries. Look at Jacob Stroud, he is on fire. He closes up to maybe 3 bike lengths. It goes down to 2 bike lengths. Gavin Vilmore getting some pressure on him by Matthew Hugenbosom. Matthew carrying injury from last weekend and struggling on the bike. Had a win last weekend and unfortunately got taken out in the warm-up session in the morning on the Sunday. Another competitor had a brake failure there and took him out and damaged the bike. Borrowed bike too, which makes it even a little bit harder. But look at that. Jacob Stroud has gone through into the hairpin and got the lead. He's got the lead and he goes onto the dog leg in the front straight. He's just got to keep a level head. He's been watching racing motorcycle forever. He's been helping us in the commentary tower on and off for the last 6 or 7 years. And what he's picked up in the commentary tower, what he's picked up by travelling around the countryside and listening to his dad and watching his dad on the racetrack is playing out there on the racetrack. So Jacob Stroud goes into the lead with a 1:04.101, and he had a mighty 0.4 seconds, nearly 4/10 of a second, in fact over 4/10 of a second lead. But it doesn't play out there. Sean Harris runs a little bit wide coming out of that loop. He's trying up on the inside. He straightens it up there. He can carry more brakes into this corner than a bike can leaning over, and none so wiser out on the track than the number 37, the Gremlin they call him. He's a hard charger. He's a hard charger. He's had just about a perfect run this season and wants to keep it that way. But of course, Jacob Stroud so hungry for a win. We commentated yesterday saying that he had a lap record. Jacob did. That was according to our information, and I appreciate their feedback coming in on the internet. We had Shane Lowry, we had Chris Osborne, we had Craig Sheriffs, all went and looked it up and confirmed that Jason Easton had a 1:03.6, and all in the 1:03s at some stage has been late Terry Fitzgerald, Green Williams and Andy Bowell as well. So there it is across the start-finish stripe. It was Jacob Stroud by 0.1 of a second, but Sean Harris slipstreams him and comes back into the lead and leads into that first corner by 2 bike lengths. They're evenly matched around this corner. Maybe the 37 bike gets a little bit. It is Suzuki versus Yamaha. They're 600cc 4-cylinder machines with 1 cylinder disabled. I believe they just take the valves out there and put some glue in the holes and let the piston and rod do their job and balancing and that, and they sound so lovely too. They just sound so lovely. Gavin Viltmore's got a break over Matt Hugenbosom there in 3rd place, but that break is only about 6 or 7 bike lengths. We're 7 laps down of a 12-lap race for the Superlite, the final Superlite race of the weekend. There it is. Matthew Hugenbosom closes right up on Gavin Viltmore as they go between the hairpin and the dog leg coming onto the front straight. We can't quite see what's happening. We can see Sean Harris come onto there in 1st place with Jacob Stroud trying to get in the slipstream, but I think he's a little bit far back. But Gavin Viltmore stretches out of his 3rd place and maybe 60 metres over the number 7 machine of Matthew Hugenbosom, Neil Ritchie.
Oh, great to watch indeed. So Sean Harris, your race leader, the Greenman, politely over 50 years of age, as he takes the charge through there with young Jacob Stroud, the 17-year-old. Tell you what, almost you could say on that one, young enough to be his grandson. Well, not quite, but you get the idea as we watch for the race going on behind them again. And at 1 minute, you thought that there's only one rider behind. You think, is the other rider lost? No, the other one's perfectly in his shadow, and you could only see one of them when you looked at them end on. So great to watch as they slipstream perfectly through there. That's the Gav Viltmore, Matt Hugenbosom update. Of course, Matt Hugenbosom, well, he's a man that had a first up win, had the win in the first race. And believe it or not, a one that we've not been putting into the context of this race, unfortunately, has been Johnny Lewis, because Johnny, in fact, has faded out of the results this weekend. And that's really disappointing, because he was top qualifier, and he then was consistently placed in 3rd place all weekend, getting 16 points across the board, and he's not featured this weekend, so bad luck for him. everything was A-OK yesterday, so I've missed what the drama has been. But what that has done, of course, is it meant that there's a whole new realm of riders into it. So if you were to take last week into consideration, you thought, wow, qualifying Johnny Lewis, you're the man. Let's look at the first motor, Matt Hugenbosom, you're the man. So at the end of Saturday, we thought, wow, you were the two heroes of our class. And then bingo, by the time we got into racing on the second day, we'd seen, unfortunately, Matt go down through the accident that wasn't his own fault. And we also, of course, had some problems for Johnny, which have been exasperated into non-starts and non-finishes here today. So a real upset of the class, as it were, when you would start to say that Sean Harris was going to feature and Jacob Stroud was getting better in there as well. Yeah, we knew that Jacob had some real potential, but to be actually leading races and taking control as he's done it, a master of a few laps, has been absolutely exceptional. So loving this in our super light lineup on the No Hair Racing supported bike. This is the Lone Star Superlights out there with the excellence that is Jacob Stroud. So
Hugenbosom through into third place. Hugenbosom's gone through into the hairpin there over the back there. They come along the start-finish stripe, and it is number 37, Sean Harris. I mean, this is a legend of motorcycle racing, got a great comeback, and Jacob Stroud tucked in behind, but we got, what is it? Veltmeyer come back in for third, yeah, about 10 thousandths of a second between them, and they go round that big sweeper. It still is. Jacob Lewis is Jacob Stroud, is closing up on Sean Harris. Could there be a change of position here? Who's going to be into the Castrol corner? It is still Sean Harris. Jacob Stroud there on the 11 machine. Gavin Veltmeyer followed by number 7, and that's Matthew Hugenbosom. Johnny Lewis running a bit of a lonely race out there in 5th spot.
Certainly is, and Johnny not featuring to the extent that he has before, but well, we can only hope that he still is able to get some points back into it. I think for a moment he did have a DNF. If I proved to be wrong, my apologies for that. But hey, what we can tell you as well is out on our racetrack in our field as well, we have the number 95 of Brent Garvin, the man from Timaru on the Suzuki 450, formerly an RNZ motocross bike, but now actually the road race trim with a whole different front end and back end on it, meaning it's actually been converted, not a motard like many other converted motocross bikes are. It's actually been turned into a road race bike with a fairing right around it as well. So you look at the bike, you think, oh, there's a road race bike. You think, oh, it's quite tall. Well, yes, it is. It's a combination of a road and an off-road bike made into a good machine. So good opportunity to use an older model motorbike and have some fun doing motocrossing, as we see from Brent Garvin, courtesy of Sight Services Limited out of Timaru, and he'll be on his home track levels next weekend, of course, with round number 3 of our NZSBK Superbike Road Race Championships. So join us, facebook.com/NZSBK, and watch for it to go. Special shout out there as well must go to Ian Dawson. Ian having a year off with the great media work he's done over many years in following our sport, and I know he's been there online. And to Ian, our thoughts with you, and thanks for your mega commitment. Ian's got a big year coming up, and that's why he's taken some time at the moment. He is the media person for Motorcycle New Zealand, which celebrates its 100th anniversary, and they've just announced the AGM is going to Te Papa this year. Te Papa, the Museum of New Zealand in Wellington. Go Spider!
Checkered flag for Sean Harris. Stroud got through briefly coming in with the dog lead, but the old wily fox, Sean Harris come back through and pipped him for a win at 177,000, 0.177 a second, and we saw Gavin Veltmeyer coming in there third place. Matthew Hugenbosom, despite challenging for third place a number of times and getting up there, unfortunately he sort of slackened off a bit, or Gavin Veltmeyer just got the bit between his teeth and broke about 100 metres between them and got away from him. So that was it. Matthew Hugenbosom, a good credit